UFO investigator Anthony Bragalia finally received a reply to a Freedom of Information Act request that he filed back in 2017, pertaining to, quote, physical debris recovered by personnel of the Department of Defense as residue, flotsam, shot-off material, or crashed UAP or unidentified flying objects.
After 2 years of going back and forth and Bragalia's threat of lawsuits, the DIA admitted that it had documents responsive to the request on recovered UFO debris and its analysis and a program under which it was administered. Included in the FOIA release are reports about a variety of advanced materials. The reports speculated about how they may be created and what they may be capable of. One is a well-known alloy called nitinol. It's a shapeable, memory-retaining titanium alloy. Nitinol enjoys wide use today in a variety of applications, but its capabilities bear similarity to the many accounts about the so-called Roswell memory metal.
Hey, is it from a crash?
How do you know about that?
We heard about it on the radio. Everybody's talking about it.
Abracadabra.
How did it do that?
The origins of nitinol help make a case for stories of extraterrestrial technology being recovered and delivered to science and industry. It was supposedly invented in a naval weapons research lab in 1959, but its origins have been traced back even further to a corporation called Battelle Memorial Institute. Since the late 1940s, Battelle maintained a contract to analyze metal samples provided by Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Another is a class of materials called metallic glass.
Transparent aluminum?
That's the ticket, laddie.
The material described in the Star Trek film Voyage Home in 1986 actually exists. We find upon further research that the original patents for this type of metallic glass was initially applied for in 1981 by the Raytheon Corporation.
These guys in Lockheed, TRW, McDonnell Douglas or Boeing, General Electric, Raytheon, look, there's no way they're going to voluntarily let this happen.
There's more. We now enter the stunning world of metamaterials. In this recording from an interview Lou Elizondo gave to the MUFON Journal, he discusses the finer points of the material's claims.
So it was never about unidentified metal alloys. Any second-year metallurgist will tell you elements are elements and we can figure it out. What was actually discussed was certain metamaterials in which their isotopic ratios at the molecular level are so unique and so precise based on the complexity that the origins of those materials remain unknown.
If we do encounter extraterrestrial materials, they would have isotopic ratios that are not found on the Earth because of their exposure to cosmic rays, different kinds of manufacture. They would differ from us. And so that's one way to analyze the fact that these are in fact extraterrestrial because they have different isotopic ratios.
There are more space-age materials described in the reports that the Defense Intelligence Agency acknowledges. One type may be used to slow down light and even bring light to a complete standstill. Another may induce invisibility by manipulating refraction, reflectivity, and increasing light absorption.
Metamaterials allow you to, in principle, make objects invisible. In principle, allow you to stop light. In principle, allow you to magnify things beyond what we can do with present-day technology. We can do that in the microwave range. We have not yet done it in the optical frequencies.
Another has the interesting ability to compress electromagnetic energy.
Things that we would consider impossible would become child's play if you have a technology that is centuries more advanced than us.
Still another exhibits a particular tunable resonance, which was likely determined during fabrication.
You see, if these objects come from a civilization more advanced than ours, They have mastered the art of manipulating individual atoms.
The reports on these materials have something in common. They all talk about what the materials might do and their possible uses. This seems to be an indirect confirmation that we didn't create them and we're not sure what they do.
And they have to be analyzed on several levels. First, they have to be analyzed spectroscopically, so we know what they're made of.
So let's say that there are materials that some other civilization has created, and that they have atomic grade printing that we don't have today. The only way to understand it is to deassemble it atom by atom.
Dr. Gary Nolan is a scientist at Stanford University. He publicly stated that a new technique for mass spectrometry that he developed attracted the attention of those in possession of UFO materials.
Well, there's one technology that's in my lab called secondary ion mass spec, and we developed a company around it and the technology for using it to read biopsy material from patients, right? And we had a way of labeling the biopsies with metal tags delivered via antibodies, and that would light up the tissue in a way that would tell you something about the distribution of those proteins on and or in cancer cells and immune system cells. And it's a very successful technology that's worked very well. It turns out that it was tuned to look at metals, right? Because we were using the metal tags. And so when in discussions with Jacques and others, that they said they had these pieces of metal, I said, well, I have an instrument that's perfectly tuned to look at metals. So let's do it.
What that stuff consisted of and why they think it's off planet, and what the testing showed about the possibility that nothing like that could appear on Earth, that's all stuff we were not able to get access to. We don't know.
Upon release of the FOIA request, there was evidence of internal commotion inside the DIA and the Pentagon.
The powers that be, there are such people. I think they realized, all right, you went actually as far as you could go, and in fact, you went a little too far. We're going to dial it back.
Susan Goff, a Pentagon spokesperson, said that although she was aware of the social media chatter, the information provided by the DIA actually relates in some way to an advanced weapons program and not UFO items.
If you start with different assumptions about how something might operate, you can come up with things that another equally advanced civilization, America, let's say, or Western civilization, doesn't understand how it works. But that doesn't mean it came from ET. But I suspect that Freedom of Information Act is talking about something a little different.
Some of the main players in the materials story were making new statements that changed previously reported facts.
All right, this is the Empire Strikes Back. This is what we're seeing. You're seeing the major establishment, which was on the back foot for over 3 years because of the offensive of the UFO faction. They were on retreat. They've gathered their resources. They're like, we can't go any farther than we've gone.
Harry Reid walked it back as far as with the New York Times about Lockheed having artifacts, and so they get these phone calls. Why else, catch yourself after the fact and go, I should have never said that, and there's a pattern here. It always pertains to physical evidence.
In our New York Times story, we said that a hangar was built to contain materials. Okay. We didn't say that materials were obtained and put in the hangar.
You did an interview with Jesse Michaels. In that interview, you laid out some of the materials.
Very excitingly, we have parts.
Okay, the parts were a little anticlimactic and small, but he claims to have much bigger parts that we can't see due to national security sensitivities.
But then when you did the interview with Lex, you said that you had materials just from Jacques Vallée, which obviously wouldn't be classified, and from TTSA, which wouldn't be classified.
There's two classes of materials that I've been given by people, and they're not given by the government or anything.
So have you studied classified materials, but you just don't have them?
I just shouldn't say anything more.
You shouldn't say anything about that. Okay. All right.
You can put that on there. I just can't say anything more.
Right. No, that's fine.
Might have been an accidental truth moment.